Hello Internet, what's going on? It's me, Ricardo, the Cynical Critic. Yeah, it's been a while since I posted last time, but few of you have been wondering where I've been, and to those who have been constantly messaging me, thank you. It's nice to know that at least someone in my life is worried about my health and my, well, just me in general. But it's been... well, as I assume you all have been experiencing yourselves, it's been quite the past 2 years. And, well, I'll explain more or less what's been going on in my life, which will then explain why I haven't been able to post anything in quite some time, and why my posts were very infrequent. Well, as you all know, back in 2019, I had finished wrapping up, RWBY Volume 5, and, well, that volume was a bit more of a challenge than the previous volumes, because I decided to do some, new things, and I also wanted to, focus on, well, some things outside of, posting videos. And, basically all together that drained me, and so I said to myself, you know what, 2020 is around the corner. I'm likely going to have to go from, taking my winter break to immediately going to school again in order to finish up and just get this associate's. But, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I mean, usually I just cram myself with a bunch of workload in order to prepare for the next volume's upload during the next semester, but I wanted to rest for a second because, good lord, was I tired. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to take about like maybe 4 to 6 weeks worth of a break, and then I'll get started on RWBY Volume 6, and then we'll see where we go from there. But as you all kind of find out for yourselves, 2020 was quite the year. And for me, it was doubly quite the year because a lot of things happened that year that, well, just one after another caused me to just delay when it came to doing anything with my videos. And the first and foremost thing I think is the major one is, as many of you might have known, I posted a video about it, basically explaining that please don't waste your life, and please, most importantly, don't waste the time that you have with other people. But in February 2020, my grandfather passed away, and he was, well, he was someone who was very important in my life, and as you might expect, that was a bit of a bummer, and I basically was on autopilot for I think about like 2 weeks or something like that. I would go to work, I'd go to school, but I wasn't really engaged. I mean, while I got my studies done and I did a good job at work, I wasn't really, you know, there. And then, of course, 2020 and the virus of unknown origins hit us, and we had to go into lockdown. Which should probably tell you exactly how the government deals with anything. It didn't exactly work. And, well, basically, because of that, even though we were all stuck at home, it didn't mean that we actually got things done. Turns out that actually getting up and going to do something is vastly important. It's one of the reasons why I actually like to go downstairs and work in my garage for a little while, just making things or tidying up a bit, or, you know, collecting some tools so I can go fix something around the house, because it gets you up and it gets you busy. Just simply sitting at the computer is indeed productive if you know how to do it, but it can drain on you very quickly. And, well, sad to say, as we all found out for ourselves, for those of us in school, online classes can be very draining. And, well, I prefer, be honest, I prefer online classes to anything else. Yes, it was very draining, to the point where when we finally got to summer, I was still very much out of it. Basically, the 4 to 6 weeks of break that I was going to take lasted all the way even through summer and even into the fall. Mainly with summer, it was because we were planning to go see my brother, as we always do every year. It's the only time we are able to gather everyone together who has free time to go see him. But COVID lockdowns, we weren't able to basically leave our own neighborhood, which was funny and ironic, and when you consider the people who are supposed to be leading, and thus leading by example. but they certainly weren't doing either of those. But either way, we weren't able to go see him, and that was just a big old downer. Many people like to say that they have depression, or more importantly, the thing that they like to say nowadays is that they have bipolar disorder. Let's face it, I'd say a good 80% of those who say that they have bipolar disorder don't. They're just drama queens. But as somebody who recently basically had a loss in the family, and then I couldn't share that loss with my brother, who was also very close to my grandfather, it was also another bummer. And basically I just waited out the summer, and I wasn't able to do much. And there's a reason why I was so unable to really get myself motivated to start on the RWBY Volume 6. And well, I think that best summarizes when I got to, I think, midway through the fall. See, we, in the beginning of the fall, I think it was like it was definitely in the beginning of October, we wanted to redo our house. And since my mom basically hasn't had anything really done in the house for 20 years, I thought it would be nice to let her have a nice house. Now that the kids were grown up, we wouldn't destroy anything. If anything, I'm the only one here who's actually taking care of things. And, well, it initially started as, well, we'll have you back in the house in about like 7 weeks. Eventually almost lasted 3 months. And that was delays for various reasons. Some was, of course, we didn't have the stuff coming in time, and so the workers weren't able to install anything. Mostly it was because of the painters. They weren't giving out the schedule, and so the guys didn't know if they should work now or work later and let the painters paint now or paint later. They didn't know because the painters wouldn't get down to it. And I have to admit, as somebody who has Mexican family members who do work in construction, those guys, they gave us a bad name. You ever hear of basically jokes about lazy Mexicans? That was them. They were, suffice to say, their work ethics, well, they left much to be desired. Either way, eventually we got it down and we got it done, but basically throughout the entire fall, even though I was trying to work on stuff, I couldn't work on anything. I couldn't record anything because my room was basically a disaster zone, as much of it had been stripped of everything that was going to be well, either repainted, redone, or whatever, and everything else had to be moved either into the garage or into the attic, so that when they finally got to my room, because I was staying in the house for much of the time in order to watch them, but when they finally got into my room, basically I had to get out of there, and so I wasn't able to work really on the RWBY Volume 6, and that was when I finally started to feel like I wanted to work on it. Basically most of my work, I started actually getting down and getting done when I got back from Texas, because literally just after we got the house done, we had to go down to Texas because they lifted the restrictions just enough for us to actually get to Texas and get there and start working on the things that we needed to work on, which was basically breaking down my grandfather's house, since he was now gone, and my grandma has been gone for about like 8 years now or something like that. Needless to say, we had a lot to get done, and we needed to get to his house and get out anything that was valuable, and most importantly, sentimental. We needed to make sure that we found all his pictures, all his war uniforms, my grandmother's wedding dress, and if we could, the rings. And for the most part, we found a lot of the stuff, and we were able to get it out of there, thank God, because this house was basically a disaster zone. It been abandoned for almost a year or so, and while we had people coming over there to watch over the garden and everything, make sure there weren't any squatters, sad to say, there wasn't much you can do unless you're actually living in the house about cockroaches and rats, and they got in. Thank God there wasn't any food or water, so they didn't stay for long, but still. It was basically, if you think of those houses that are from the show Hoarders, that was my grandfather's house, and we had to get it in there and get everything that was valuable and everything that was sentimental to us and get it out. And so that's what we did. And when we finally got back into Illinois, that's when I began. But the reason why I didn't begin any further, I mean, I basically had an entire 2020 summer. I mean, why didn't I start then? Well, as I've said before, it's been difficult when you want to make videos, and, well, there's no real reward for that. I'm not looking for a financial reward, though that would indeed be nice. But as always, when the moment I started on making videos for YouTube, I knew I was not going to be able to make any money, for two main reasons. One, mainly it was because I knew that I would be using other people's intellectual properties, and to make money off of that, even if I was doing reviews, I just felt was, well, unless I'm doing it on a professional basis, it just didn't feel right that much. And granted, that was also when I still liked the company Rooster Teeth. But the second reason was more personal. I knew I didn't want to be reliant on YouTube, and let's just face it, those people who have been reliant on YouTube and those people who do get paid by YouTube, they're not exactly the nicest people. You'll notice them. They're basically the ones who pop up on the trending page all the time. They're very superficial people. But, no, that was not the issue. The issue was the fact that YouTube basically blacklisted me, and most importantly, I believe Rooster Teeth blacklisted me. And what that basically means is that I'm not put in the algorithm. So unless you guys actually do share my videos, do like them, and do comment, which I must say I would truly appreciate if you do even just one of those. Unless you do those, I will not be seen whatsoever. Hell, I'm just happy to be seen by those who are actually subscribed to me. So if you wish to see more of my content, do subscribe, because you likely won't get me back into your feed unless you actually subscribe. And again, the reason for that is yes, I did use their intellectual property, but again, fair use basically implies that as long as there is a copyright law, there must be fair use. There are two sides of one coin if you really want to break it down to it. But no, I mainly got started getting blacklisted from Rooster Teeth when I started actually really criticizing their show. Funny how that started. But anyways, yeah, just doing all this work and making these videos and eventually finding out that I only get like maybe a dozen or so views on them is a bit disheartening. I mean, granted, it's still fun because I enjoy just working with the programs and learning all this stuff, and it's allowed me to understand that I can use these skills in order to make a living. But yeah, it's disheartening, and again, as many other YouTubers had explained, doing it for a show that is basically a hollow shell of itself, it's not fun. But then again, we're not hating on this. We did not like hearing that Rooster Teeth is basically a shadow, if not a corpse of what it used to be. Granted, I knew that back in, I think it was like midway through Volume 4, just because of everything that they were doing. I knew that Rooster Teeth is no longer the same Rooster Teeth that we knew and loved. They're dead and gone, and part of the reason is, of course, they sold themselves, but second of the reason, they didn't stand up for themselves. You can sell yourselves, and then you can tell them, hey, listen, this is what you bought, so you have to let us create the content that we're going to continue to create if you want your money. Because let's face it, if they kept a lot of their older shows, probably would have still made some money. I mean, granted, yes, they did have some issues that were brought to light recently, but still. Either way, so yeah, it wasn't until literally the beginning of this year that I started working on RWBY Volume 6. And at first, as always, I had to watch the season, and then I had to watch the season again as I wrote out the scripts, and then I had to break down those scripts into a screenplay, and then I had to basically set up everything, make sure I knew what I needed to record, and then get to the recordings, which is not always as easy. I mean, I could write out a schedule, but sad to say, I'm living with other people, and more importantly, if somebody needs my help, I'm likely to help them. And so that ruins a bit of my schedule. But eventually, I think it was in the summer, I finally just before the summer, I finally finished the scripts and the screenplay, and I was ready to record. And so, during the summer, that's what I did. I recorded. But it wasn't as easy because, as always, basically every year since I was maybe like 14, there has always been someone who's needed help moving. And since I'm 6 foot tall and strong, or at least strong enough, I'm called on to help. And this year was no different. I actually had to help move, I think, 3 people. One of them on 2 occasions. So I technically had to move 4 people. And some of them were easy, some of them were not. Like the last one, I had to literally help someone move out of state. And that was quite the few weeks, because we couldn't move immediately because they were waiting to get the house. And then when they finally did move, and it was an easy move, we decided to go see my brother, because finally restrictions were done, and so we went down for a weekend and finally came back. And even then, things weren't able to settle down just yet. But thankfully, by the end, I think, of last week, I am mostly done with the recordings. I still have a bit left for, I think, 3 videos. And I'm not entirely sure when I'll be done with those, but hopefully in the next, at least according to my schedule, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to finish those up and then get started with editing. And editing, let's see, editing should take me another 2 weeks, because it takes me about like maybe 2 to 3 days to edit a full video. And that's a full review. It's a lot of work. I mean, granted, it's not an entire day. It's mostly like an 8-hour to 12-hour shift, depending on how difficult it is to edit those particular scenes. But yeah, in 2 weeks, I should be able to edit about half of the videos, which will be fine with me, because then I can start releasing them, and I can just continue to work on the videos again and release as I go. And hopefully be done before I need to release the final video, because I don't like crunching overtime and then only have to say, hey guys, sorry about the video, it's going to be a little late because I'm still working on it. But anyways, yeah, that's basically what's been going on. I've been trying to work on the videos, but it's not as easy as a lot of people like to think. Editing videos, just editing videos is kind of difficult, because there are, as always, as people don't get this, there are rules to creativity. Because if you want to create something good, well, you have to create something that is objectively good. I mean, people can say, well, subjectively I like it, but at the end of the day, that's just a small niche. And while yes, it's good to play niches, at the end of the day, that's just a tiny niche. You need to expand out to the general audience, so to speak. But anyways, yeah, working on volume 6. Hopefully it'll be done, and I'll be posting in 4 to 5 weeks. We'll see how that all goes. As for now, things are going all right with me. I hope everything is going all right with you guys. I mean, it's been like I said, it's been a crazy 2 years, and seeing what we have to deal right now in America with our current administration is going to be a hell of another 3.5 years. I mean, when the people who voted him in are deeply regretting their decision, you know things are bad. I mean, I didn't like the previous guy, but at least it didn't start any wars. Anyways, guys, please take care of yourselves. I mean, while this virus is in no way near as bad as they're saying, still, it's always nice to be a little safe if you can. And, hey, just try to enjoy life to what you can. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we do say YOLO. While, yes, it is try not to be too stringent, also remember you only do live once, and try not to waste it doing stupid things. But what am I to say? I mean, I'm wasting my life creating videos for you guys. Either way, you guys take care. That's basically what's been going on. I hope to release videos soon. Toodles.